Welcome back to Still a Part of Us. We are once again joined by Kaileigh, and she just told us the sweetest and tenderest little story about Melody, her daughter, her third child. And if you don't get it, please, I would recommend listening to it. It was really quite sweet and tender. And so I welcome back, Kaileigh. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us again today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we love it when people come on and chat with us more. So thank you. Okay, so to get everybody sort of oriented, can you tell us what happened to your daughter Melody when she was born? At the time of this recording, yeah, when what time of the year was it, and what happened to her?
Yep. So Melody um, was born June of 2023. We found out at our 20-week ultrasound, which we had at 21 weeks, 4 days, that she no longer had a heartbeat, and so we had to deliver her the next day. That was June of 2023.
Yeah, and that was about 10 months ago, right? At the time of
Yep.
this
Yep.
recording. So one of the things that I always find to be so difficult is when it hasn't even been a year for you guys. And I'm curious how this last 10 months have been for you and your family as you've traversed this path of grief. How did it look early on, and how has it looked in the last month, for example?
So early on, it was a fog. It was a non-functioning fog. Didn't do much of anything. Couldn't, I remember my husband dragging me like out of the house, like, and we are very active people. We like to be outside. We hike. We have property that we are always walking. Um, so it just was hard to do anything. I remember my husband just wanted to do and work on on Melody's spot that we have for her out in our pasture. Like he wanted to make it beautiful for her, and I just was lost, and the only thing I could focus on was searching for the reason that she died, and anything I could come up with wasn't good enough. You know, just the searching phase was hard. Would I ever know the reason? Just getting through that was tough. Yeah.
I've never thought of this before when you mentioned it, that you kind of go through a searching phase, and especially for families that don't have a clear reason of what happened, and an autopsy wasn't done because you guys opted not to have an autopsy. That I didn't think about it that way, but because we didn't have answers as well, but I definitely went through a searching phase of, and then there's the also that comes along with it. It was like, oh, I should have done this. I could have done this. I wish I would have done this, and lots of kind of almost regret of just like, I should have done something differently so that I could maybe have an answer. And that's frustrating.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was kind of the hardest part. I, like I said earlier, my husband's schedule is all over the place. Works nights, days, mornings, afternoons,
Just,
like he works all the time.
yeah.
Whenever they need him. So I remember he took a week and a half off, and I ended up taking, I think, 2 or 3 weeks off work. So not long enough. I felt, looking back, it's not long enough.
Yeah.
At the time, I felt like I needed to get back to like normalcy. And at my work, we're close. Like it's just our close office, and um, I work with some of my best friends.
Hmm.
Um, so it was good, but I should have probably listened to my body better,
Mm.
uh, just grief wise, and to let myself feel it still, I guess, because you do. Like I
Yeah.
said, you once you get crying, you can't stop, and then it's like can't do that at work,
Yeah.
really. I mean, I could have,
Yeah.
um,
But it's harder. People
but
don't know what to do
and I
with you.
did, I did do it at work
Yeah.
too, but I just tried to hold myself together
Yeah.
more, and that's just hard. It's exhausting
Mhm.
to have to hold yourself together, and you shouldn't have to because that's the worst thing you've ever been through,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Like, so you shouldn't have to put yourself in a position where you have to hold yourself together,
Yeah.
and you don't need to. So it's kind of, I think that's, yeah.
But I don't. It's interesting because you said I felt like I needed some normalcy, and I think our body
Yeah.
craves that because you're just like that was so not normal. Just what happened to me. Like I need something to like reorient myself to something, and so it makes sense for you wanting to just go back and have have something that looks relatively like what your old life was once.
Hmm.
But yeah, your body will remind you that you haven't finished crying, you haven't finished grieving, you haven't finished letting the feelings all come. Cause yeah,
Yeah. I can't remember who said it. I don't know, like, how the algorithms work, on social media. Like, if you find something about grief, that's the rest of your whole thing is going to be about grief.
yes, it
So
is.
I had to shut it down because I cannot. But anyways, I came across one that said, oh, I can't remember who it was, but they were on like a talk show, and this woman was on there talking about how she lost her mom, I think, and
Hmm.
she started to tear up and cry, and she brought herself back down, and like she stopped the crying. He's like, no, 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 no. He's like, don't stop that. He's like, it's just gonna be there waiting for you when you're done here.
Yeah,
It's just gonna be still there waiting for you. And it's just so true because that's exactly what it is. It's here with you, waiting for you. Like,
yeah,
so stop it all you want, but it's gonna be here full force
yeah,
sometime,
yeah, exactly.
when you let it. So
It's interesting.
I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, because I feel like you're right. It's like, they talk about grief as like a wave and like trying to stop it from crashing is kind of hard. So you might as well just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Let it do its wave. Let it do its cycle and just let the
Yep.
tears come because they're going to
Yeah.
come. Yeah. I
Yep.
yeah, it's tricky.
Yep.
I'm curious what you found to be helpful, though. I know that looking back, you're like, oh, I should have given myself more time and all that things. But are there things that were helpful that have helped you process the in things in the last 10 months? I know, like everybody says, oh yeah, you have to go through the stages of grief, but I was like, it's all over the place, people. The stages of grief are just all over the place. You're going to revisit
Mhm.
some of them. You're going to hang out on in a couple of phases for a long time. It depends. So it's not a linear path by any means, but is there anything that helped you in different phases and in this last 10 months?
Yeah. So I've gone through a few different phases of, like I said earlier, like I feel alone, so I just want to be alone. But then also almost having a little bit of resentment for being alone. Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
so, that there's one thing that I read at her memorial service, and it takes a village to mourn a child when a shower of joy becomes a storm of sorrow, and you still have to count on your village. Like, and some people don't have that, um, but we do, and we're very blessed to have the people that have sat with us in our grief and listened or helped us work through it. I think that, allowing that
Yeah.
to happen, because I think some people are, we're not askers, like to ask for things for help.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not natural for us to ask for help. So that was, it was hard. My mother-in-law came over and cleaned our house while we were in the hospital. Like she cleaned my chicken coop for me. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Just yeah, and just being accepting of the help. Our we don't really have neighbors, but we have a neighbor, right here across the
Mhm.
way, and they're, so good. Like they brought us a meal, like they wanted to take care of us, and so we didn't have to because you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You
And you
shouldn't have
don't
to think about what's
yeah.
next to eat. And
Yeah. And you don't have time you don't have the mental capacity to think about what the next thing to eat is. So, yeah, so
yeah,
kind.
yeah, yeah. Especially too with kids, like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, to have a little bit of normalcy for them too, like,
Mhm.
but also see that it's okay to feel this. Like, this is, we're not just gonna shove it in the closet and
Yeah.
pretend it's not there because it's fully here and you got to go through it.
Yeah.
So
You do have to
that
go through it.
was, I read a verse, Job 2:13. It was, then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. And no one said a word to him because they knew how great his suffering was. And that was after the devil was, tempting him and
Yeah.
with and taking away all of his children and, you
Yeah.
know,
All the
so that was,
misfortune, yeah.
I felt that a lot because, you know, you have to let those people in to sit with you.
Yeah.
You can, so
That's
that was
hard.
one thing that was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
It is.
And I want to point out that, like, if you are supporting somebody that is going through this, oh, that verse in Job is beautiful because they didn't say anything. They just sat with him in the ground where he was the lowest and just was with him. And our grief doesn't need to be solved. It's not going to ever be solved. It needs to be felt. It needs to be experienced, but it doesn't need to be solved. And so I just think that his friends not saying anything is a nice little indication of, like, they're just there to be, to give him space,
Yeah.
to mourn with him.
Yeah.
And that's nice. That's a nice reminder for all of us to just give people space sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Because sometimes, like, I feel like even if you're consoling or it almost feels like you're justifying it in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
I think I kind of talked about that in my last counseling session. It's like, yeah, it's not going to be justified.
Mm-mm. Mm.
Like
There's
yes, I'm feeling this way because I lost my daughter, but I also like, I don't know, I just don't need a bunch of other reasons to think about. Like, I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I,
You
so
don't need to
that was,
yeah,
it's
you don't
just,
need to reason it out.
yeah, yeah. So that was, I like to think about that too.
Yeah.
But
Um
yeah, um, we had like care packages sent, and all the cards. And I, like my grandmother, am a card saver. So all the cards I put with her little box that we got sent home with from the hospital. So I can, because sometimes you just need a good cry.
yep.
And you feel like if you feel like you need a reason, even though you have a reason, like feel like you need to have something to trigger it. So I can go back and look at all of her stuff, and it's so beautiful to look at all of the people that cared for us and thought of us, and yeah, even if they didn't, send gifts and just a card, like that means so 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 much.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
sometimes I wish they still came in the mail.
yes. Yeah. I think that it's interesting because some people don't realize how much a card means, or just a phone call, or a text message, or yeah, like you said, a little gift, because there's an acknowledgement of your grief, and also there's an acknowledgement that you had a baby, right? That you have a
Yeah.
daughter, and that is something
Hmm.
that we crave to have, is just that acknowledgement of the existence of our children, because they're not here right now. You can't physically see them, but that they are. I don't know. I don't know if that's how you feel, but
Hmm.
that's how I feel about it. It's
Yeah.
like, I like it when people bring up my child. So,
Yes. Yeah. 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 Because sometimes it's like for us to, like, I want to talk about her all the time too, like, but to bring her up, it's like, am I being weird? I don't know, I know I'm not being weird, but I guess like I don't want that in a way. It's like just being I don't want people to think that I'm like bringing it back up for people to feel sorry for me in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I bring her up. I miss her and I love her.
Mhm.
I, you know,
That's simply what it is. We just miss them and we love them and they're very much part of our
yeah,
family and very much part of our existence. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I've noticed a lot of right away, even like just the conversations that I would have with people like at work or just out. I just felt like they were so unimportant and like they didn't matter. Like in the beginning and still kind of now, I'm still like, what? This has like there's no this conversation is going nowhere. It has
Eh,
no importance to anything.
Yeah.
So I have struggled with that too because it's like, am I being unempathetic to like them? I don't know. But it's just like, I feel like once you've gone through something like that and a great loss, things change, perspectives
Yeah.
change, and how you view things and people, how you
Yeah.
view people too changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, yeah, certain people are just hard to be around, and that's
Yes.
okay.
Yes, exactly. That's okay. Mhm. Yes, I felt like after I was kind of impatient with a lot of people just cuz I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's so petty." Or like, "This is dumb. Why are we even talking about it?" I
Yeah.
agree. Like, cuz it just you're like, "Don't you know what happened to us?" Like this something much bigger. And I just think of all
Yeah.
the people that have experienced, trauma in like big T trauma. And they're probably thinking the same thing about
Hmm.
everybody else, just like, how are you living your very petty life? That's, I guess, the best word I have. Like, how are you just
Yeah.
going about talking about shopping and the weather?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. That's a struggle. It is a struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kaylee, so I am wondering how you have helped your kids and your husband. Have you seen them grieve a little differently? I feel like that's always kind of a tricky thing trying to navigate your own grief while others are grieving around you that grieve differently. Because that's one thing I've noticed is that people grieve
Yeah.
differently. So how does that look to helping your kids,
Yeah.
helping your husband through all of this?
Yeah. So my husband and I were it was like while we were in the hospital, we were very much like we were so good for each other.
Yeah.
Um and like I said, the second we came home, he was busy working on her spot, Melody's
Hmm.
spot. And so which was, I mean, that's what he needed. So I let him do it and I needed sleep. And
Yeah.
I think I slept away for 2 days straight at least. He took care of the boys and made her spot for her and just stayed busy. And yeah, I remember our first time going back to church, and we didn't really have a church home. We were invited to a church, and we all went, and it was beautiful. It's like I think the music was a little too much, but I thought it was great. It was like going to a concert. Um, and I just sobbed the entire time back at church. And the boys didn't want to. Well, our youngest was really good at going to the children's church, but our oldest
Mm.
one,
Hmm.
he was very like in tune to me and my emotions, and he was very clingy. So he did not want to go, but we let him go in with our youngest boy, and they went together. Just were there with him together, and it was good. Then like got home from church, and I don't even know what Chris said. Chris said something, and I blew up. I just was, it was like I couldn't deal with it anymore. I don't even know what he said. Like I don't remember it. He and I just went upstairs and I was in there the rest of the day in my room, just crying away, and it was that was needed too. But I had to go to church, and then it was an explosion after that. So. I don't know where I'm going with that one, I guess, but we were on different pages grief-wise very clearly at that point. He was still trying to, bury it basically,
Mhm.
and I was just in the thick of it. So
Yeah.
that was, I think I was just feeling alone, more alone than what I, had already felt. Like you already just feel alone
Mhm.
already naturally the
Yeah.
second you hear those words that your baby has no heartbeat. It's like, your world flips upside down. And so I think that was more so the struggle there, just feeling alone. So getting through that was a struggle for us because it was like to figure out where we could help each other
Yeah.
and to actually sit down and figure that out, to
Yeah.
stop burying it. So
Yeah.
that was that was good and bad for us, like because
Yeah.
you have to face it. Like, like I said earlier, it's not going anywhere.
Nope, it's not going
It's just gonna
anywhere.
come up. Uh,
Or explode. Yeah, there's
yeah,
been definitely times when I've been short in temper because I feel like it should be a certain way and it's not, and yeah, it'll come up. It'll come up.
yeah. I, my mother-in-law had helped me make a shadow box for her, and it
Mm.
has like the little molds that they made of her hands and her feet, like clay molds, right? I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
they're beautiful and just itty bitty. And her one of the 15-week ultrasound photos that we had is in there. We put part of her blanket that she was wrapped in there. Trying to think of what else. Oh, they had gave her like, well, it was more like a bracelet, but it was supposed to be a baby ring,
Oh,
but it was more like it would have fit her like a bracelet.
yeah. 'Cause she's so little.
It's tiny. But
Mhm.
so we put that in there, and that's what had happened that Sunday after church is it was on one of our tables, and you kind of gotta like walk by it to go into the living room, and it was bumped, fell over, the shadow box fell over,
Oh.
and um, it didn't fully break, but it like went out of place, and I had to fix
Mm.
it, and I think that's what really made me blow up was because something got ruined of hers. Like, and
Yeah.
it just was, so we have like now moved that and we have her own little space in our living room for her that we have I did one of those like
Mm.
books of all the pictures that we
Mhm.
have of her and like throughout my pregnancy and up to labor and delivery and our family pictures that we had of her. So yeah, now it's like just a beautiful little spot in our living room. And
Yeah.
so then we did a lot of we got a few books from the hospital
Mhm.
that in their little, I don't remember what they called it, but it was like their little stand that they had of all the books and stuff for kids and
Yeah.
parents. And so we did a lot of book reading for the boys, and I think that was helpful because I mean, in the beginning I couldn't even read the books,
Yes. They're
but
so hard. Yeah.
you know, yeah, now like the boy like at bedtime the boys can just like they have bunk beds so they share a room. It's really nice. So they can just ask what book they want to read, like whatever book they
Mhm.
want me to read that night or whatever. So sometimes they pick one of those books and sometimes they don't, but when they do, it's nice because it opens up the conversation
Mm.
and allows us to be like, it's almost like they know that we're going to go to that space, like when we
Yeah.
read those books,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it just opens it up better for conversation. But my youngest is like, at first he didn't understand. I think I said that earlier, like when is she coming? Like,
Mhm.
and he still sometimes is like that. But now he's more like, oh, the sky is so pretty pink in the morning for the sunrises. Like he's like, it's so pretty, it's from Melody. And one morning he said like it was like sky was gorgeous. It was like pink and purple and blue and
Uh-huh.
orange. It was like all the rainbow colors. It was beautiful. And he's like, "Oh, this guy's from all the babies in heaven." So
Oh.
it was like, it was so. his heart is just so sweet.
That's
Um,
so cute.
and he actually is one that he'll come up to me and be like, "Mommy, do you want to listen to my heart?" And he'll let me put my ear to his chest, like so that I can listen to his heart. And it's so beautiful. Like he's like, I wish Melody's heart didn't stop. So
Yeah.
like he is very, yeah, he's coming around to it. Like
Yeah.
now he is like understanding more
Yeah.
the further we get and away. We're starting to plan her first birthday
Yeah,
together. So
what
just,
plans do you
getting
guys have?
ideas. Yeah, so we actually just got we're raising caterpillars into butterflies.
Cool.
So the boys can release those for her, and those will probably be ready before her birthday, but that's
Mhm.
okay. We were looking at like cake ideas. I think we're just gonna do like a picnic out by her spot with family and close friends, maybe. You always go out on a first birthday.
Yep.
You gotta go all out, and
Yeah.
so I think we'll
That
do
sounds
that.
that
Found a
sounds so
pretty
nice.
yeah, I'm excited. So, and the boys are too. The boys are excited to plan it, so it'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way to involve them in the family, right? Like, I think that's so sweet that they're excited about it and
Yeah.
pumped. Well, I was gonna ask and see if there were some things that you would I know that you mentioned that you go to a therapist, and it sounds like it's been super helpful for you. Did you decide to do that pretty quickly after you lost Melody, or, was that something that just kinda gradually like, "Oh, I think I need to explore this more?"
Throughout my pregnancy, I didn't say that in the first episode, but I was experiencing. I've had anxiety, but I was experiencing like I said, we live on a farm. I just was experiencing anxiety around the safety of my children. Like, and
Mm,
we don't have like tractors in and out daily. Like, it's not like that. It's like I said,
yeah.
it's a hobby farm. But I just was like, I was so anxious that something bad was going to happen to my kids, to my
Oh,
two boys that are here.
yeah.
So I was really struggling with that. So I was like, so I mentioned it to my doctor or whatever, and he's like, mentions obviously like medication, and I just wasn't ready for that. I'm not a big medication fan.
Mhm.
So I was like, we'll hold off. But then he mentioned counseling therapy, and I had knew of a place. I would wanted to go to a Christian place, Christian based.
Mhm.
Um, so I looked into it, but they didn't have any availability.
Yeah.
That was when I was pregnant with Melody, and then I once we lost her, found out I was like, yeah, there's no waiting. I got to get right in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they didn't have opening until like August, so I didn't get in until August.
Oh,
My husband's work provided like a therapy, but that was
like a short term.
like an I call.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like I just call, and I think I called twice because I was like, I just don't, that's not for me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't, it was just hard to like call someone and be like, so
Mhm.
I just didn't like that. And, but that was, I mean, he was so good. And I was very thankful that my husband's work provided that for
Yeah.
us. Like, that
Yeah.
was really great.
But
Yeah.
your current therapist, the one that you finally got into in August is helping you through some of the things that you were dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. She's great. I highly recommend finding. I got lucky enough I've never done, well, okay, so we have done counseling like as a couple or whatever
Mhm. Mhm.
before, but I've never done counseling as myself, and just myself, and I've heard of people having, just like not connecting,
Yeah.
and with their therapist. And I I am very lucky that I reconnected, and she's wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd like to encourage people to you can shop around for a therapist because you're gonna have to find the right person, the right fit, because they might not see eye to eye
Yeah,
with you in some things that are really important, and it's okay to ask for a different therapist, I think. But you're right. It is
yeah,
very hard to find openings still, even after
Hmm.
everything, it still is hard to get a therapist, it seems like. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's
Yeah, it's wild.
yeah, but it's worthwhile when it works. So, it helps you through.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I can feel when I'm like, if I have to schedule it further out than when I usually go, I'm like, ooh, I usually feel that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I need this. I need to see. I need
Yeah.
to see her.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Kaylee, this has been a really great conversation just about grief and what's worked, what hasn't, and also looking forward to her birthday and how you guys are planning for that. Um, and I so appreciate your time. Is there any last little bit of advice or anything that you'd like to say about this journey of grief that you'd like to share with our audience that might be helpful to them or might be helpful for you to say for yourself?
Yeah. I take the pictures for sure once you find out. I remember taking my last belly picture,
Yeah.
and that was obviously very, very hard, but I love to have that. Very thankful that I did that. And you just have to feel all, you have to be able to feel all the things and be accepting of it because, like I said a few times, it's not going anywhere.
Yep.
So you're on this, it's a journey. It's a, it's, it's not a race. It's
Yeah.
a marathon, right? I think that's what I've heard. So I'm not a runner at all, but
Yeah.
it's not a 5K.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to
So
sprint through it.
I read, well, I kind of journaled here and there. I've journaled and just like wrote down verses that I like and things like that. So that was helpful for me is journaling. And I have a little thing that I wrote in my journal. I don't remember what the date was on that, but it's probably fairly soon after we had delivered and stuff. But it's I'll read it if that's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, please.
It's just our hearts are shattered. Dreaming of who you would be while you were growing in my belly was such a joy. While we would never get to hear your cries or stare into your beautiful eyes. And while none of this was in our plans, I know this is the most beautiful life for you, and we can't wait for the day that we meet again. I think that just writing and journaling really helps, and also saying it out loud, speaking it out loud is part of it. Because obviously, it's still hard for me now, 10 months later. But saying it out loud, saying your baby's name, saying you miss them, saying that you lost them, saying that those words that you heard, even though the words say those out loud.
Yeah.
You know, I think that just you feel it more, and it allows you to accept it. So yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Kaylee. I appreciate you
Mhm.
saying the words out loud and sharing her life and sharing your heart with us today. So thank you. Thank you so much again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys for being a source of hope and um just yeah, you guys are amazing, and I love listening to your podcast and beautiful.
Thank you. And so happy to be that place. So happy to be a space
Hmm.
for this communal grieving. I guess is a good way of putting it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you again, Kaylee. I appreciate you so, so much.
Yes, thank you.